I have with me a group of friends and teammates, peers, and they are listening to me. This subject matter is new to them as well, and so let's begin. All right. So the first thing I am going to show is a map of the Boca Chica village. So let me walk towards this place. Let me walk towards the poster here, and I'm going to zoom on it. Let me try to face it so that others know what I'm looking at. All right, so this is the map that we are looking at, and this is Boca Chica Village, Texas. I got this obviously from Google, and it's a satellite view image. And this is Weems Street, W-E-E-M-S, Weems Street, and we can see how things look like down this road. And we can see that SpaceX already has, like, at that time, I believe this must be 2019. And we have SpaceX, the South Texas tracking station there. And let me just load one of these hotspots that we can see. The first one I will load is this one, the very top one, where and hopefully we can see the tracking stations. And so this has loaded the panorama, and I'm going to back out a little bit, and then I find this little dot here, and you can see on the recording the tracking station. So this is Google Street View. So it's the 360 view that you would see if you go on Google at that location where the red dot was. And I'm looking around with my friends, how things look like. So we can see that in 2019, how there was a tracking station, and that's how it looks like. So now let's check out and see, the place. And I'm going to pick just one of these hotspots here, and I'm going to click on this one. So now we are on Weems Street. I'm waiting for the scene to load. And you can see it looks like a typical rural town, and you can see the trees. It's a very dry place. Again, that's 2019. And I imagine now things must be very different, but you can see the houses and you can see the broken windows. I don't think this was a very, a place that suggests prosperity, and I think it was probably a neighborhood that was on its way out, and it's probably good that SpaceX found this place to use. And from what I hear, these houses are now currently very expensive, and its prices keep going up. Most probably because SpaceX wants to buy them, and maybe the inhabitants know that SpaceX has deep pockets, and they probably want to make sure that they get a piece of it. All right, so this is how things look like, and on the next poster that I have displayed, just next to it, where you see RGV aerial photography, and you can see that the place has changed, and it's exactly I tried to make the two maps similar in the sense that you can compare it. If you look at the angles of the roads, you can see that it's the same place, except that the roads are a little bit more improved, and you can see that on some of the houses the roofs have changed. I'm not sure if they have the new solar tiles from Tesla, but you never know. But it's possible. But at the bottom right, you can see the Mars Pathfinder RV Park. The labeling was not done by me. It's done by the RGV aerial photography people. But for us, for the people in the crowd, it's amazing to see how within a couple of years there is so much development happening all around. And if you just Google for RGB aerial photography, you might land on these videos that is still public on YouTube, and you can see it's a whole section of that terrain that now has lots of space mission assets, lots of people working. It's really, really developing very, very quickly. So now if you look at this piece of land here on my left, and I'm going to show you on the map for my friends who are watching me. Let me just walk towards this place here so that they get to see where I'm standing. Okay, I'm looking at the bottom left of this map, and you can see the Boca Chica Boulevard, and somewhere around the top of this lettering, you can see the village. Actually, you can see Weem Street and all that. So you know the location of this place and where it is. Okay, so that's where the village is, and that's where some of the rocketry development is happening, and they have to transport it much further. And if you look at the northeast of this map, you can actually see the SpaceX landing pad. Just let me know, guys, if you're still following me. I am currently looking at the top right corner of the board. Are you guys still with me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I
All
can
right.
see that.
All right. So let's have a look at, for example, I'm going to click on this one. I think those panoramas from Google are very interesting in the sense that it gives you a history of the whole place and activities that were happening right there. So this is kind of an old picture, again, around 2018-19. And you can see if you just move around, and you can see that in the distance there is one part. I can see it on my video, but what I'll do, maybe to help you guys, I'm going to raise an arrow and point it there so that you also get to see it. Let me just sign into the Panocube here, and I'm going to find a little arrow. I'm going to just place it. Okay, I'm just waiting for the menu. It's popping up. I'm going to pick, maybe I'll pick this circle, maybe. Okay, so and then I'm going to scale it up. You can see it like through the circle. There is a device. Can you see that?
I see it, yes.
On the panorama. Okay, so that's the hopper. Before you design a rocket, there are lots of iterative stages. That was the very first one where they were trying to test the propulsion system. Okay, that's how it looked like. It's like this very small cylinder, and there were a lot of jokes going around. Oh, these people are trying to send trash cans in space. There was so much, people were having so much fun about this. But anyway, so that's an example of the panorama when how it's useful, especially when it's time stamped. So we are going in the past, just trying to see how things looked like at that time. Now we have have another picture of the hopper. I don't know if we want to see another picture of the hopper, but why not? It just takes a few seconds. All right. So now that you know how the hopper looks like, you can see it from another angle. Can you see a sheriff car? And just behind it, you can see the hopper from another direction. If you can see it, just let me know. Just give me a shout that you can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, good. So basically, those are two different panoramas taken at different points in time. And usually there are people who track these sort of things, but Google doesn't update its pictures very often these days. Maybe it's because of the pandemic. But if they do update it regularly, I think this can become a very useful tool for history teachers, and if they want to look at different points in time and how things look like. Okay, so I'm just going to go and try to load something else. I don't know if it has loaded already. I'm not sure. Okay, this one is a more recent picture where you can actually see in the distance two rockets, but the names are, I think it's called Starship. It's kind of interesting because they keep changing the name. There is Spaceship, Starship, then there is Spaceship System, but we'll explain, the difference. It's just that the same way that, of course, on a much different scale, when we develop software, we keep naming different parts of the things, but on a completely different scale, on rocketry, you can see the struggle as well when they have to name all these different objects. And so this one where you can see the two rockets in the distance, they are actually the spaceships. And the reason why I wanted to show you the other pictures on my left here, well, not on my left now, I'm lost, but straight in front of me, is just to so that you can make a correlation between what you see in the picture with what you're seeing in the distance. So if you look at, maybe let's start with the first picture on this side. So let me walk up to this picture on this exhibit here. All right. Okay, so you can see the shape of the Starship, right? It looks, well, like any rocket. Okay, Starship SN10. And that was during the last takeoff trial. It took off, and I think it landed for the first time. It's probably, yeah, that's the picture for the first successful landing. So that ship, that rocket is able to take off and lands on its own vertically. So I'm looking at the second picture, and you can see this is Starship performing high altitude maneuver. I won't talk about the maneuvers. There are lots of things they tried, like the belly flop and all that stuff. But that's when the second stage. And in the last picture, that was when it was actually landing successfully. Okay, it actually landed. So that rocket can actually take off and land, but it was because of physics reasons that we won't go into. It cannot actually, this on its own cannot, leave Earth gravity and go straight to the moon, for obvious reasons. So it needs a booster. So that's where we need a second rocket. And I'm going to walk towards it so that you know what I'm talking about. So it's right here. I'm just going to move a little bit out of the way. So that's the super heavy booster that's being wheeled in. I think yesterday it was being wheeled in. That's just another example of how when an instructor is trying to teach something and it's an evolving situation, they can have access to material on the web and introduce it very rapidly in a 3D virtual world for their virtual exhibit. But here you can see this super heavy booster, and how that's going to work is that this in itself is a rocket on its own. It takes off and is able to land on its own. I had a little animation that I could show you, but just because in the interest of time, I don't have it. I only have a picture here. Remember, you can include video clips in this app and show the video. But since I'm here, I'm just showing you the picture. And you can see that it has two sections. The section at the bottom, that's the booster, okay? That's the big tower that you see here. In fact, it's so high that if you look at the other picture where you can see the tower segments. They need to keep stacking segments on top of each other so that you can reach the height of even just the booster, and then the spaceship comes on top. So just imagine you have two rockets now, one on top of the other. Okay, so when it's going to take off, the big booster is going to carry the spaceship at a very high altitude, and there, of course, gravity has less pull on everything. And then it's going to release the top rocket, and that one will go on its way, and the booster will just come back on its own and will land on its own, for the next, ready to send the next Starship up again. So you can see that they are really trying to cover the three big R's. It's rapid reusability of rockets, okay? It's the triple R's. So you're actually reusing each and every part of the whole system. And that's very interesting. That's why it's transforming the cost of space flight. And of course, the spaceship will continue either to the moon or to Mars. And then they'll be able to land on their own. Okay, at least I imagine for the first trip. And who knows, maybe they'll have, another super heavy Starship system, waiting for them there on Mars and on the moon after many, generations down the line. One thing I thought that I would illustrate here, I don't know if we can see it on this panorama. No, we can't see it. But there was something that was of interest to me that I thought would illustrate very well how those maps are useful. Let me try to click on it and load the next panorama. And while this loads, I want to show you something else. Maybe we can, I'm not sure if we have a picture of the pad here. There's something specific I wanted to show you. Okay, so I remember what I was trying to show you. So if you look at the poster that I'm looking at right now, okay, you can see the title is Adding Tower Segments to Accommodate Tall, Super Heavy Starship System. Okay. And at the base of it, you can see these four pillars. All right. So now let me try to see if I loaded the appropriate panorama for this task. Can you see, while you are looking all around this panorama, whether you can actually identify the feature I just pointed at? This platform here in the bottom left on the picture, I don't know rocketry, but I imagine that's where the super heavy Starship system is going to position itself on top of that. And you can see it in this picture, which is more recent. And this picture was, by the way, was not taken by Google. I'm going to try and put another circle around it so that you can see it, hopefully. Okay, so I tried to put a circle around it. I don't know if you can see it, but you can, at least in that low resolution image, you can see those three vertical bars. That's where, the super heavy booster is going to go. All right. So that's basically, the kind of thing I wanted to show you. It's interesting that right now I didn't have a lot of difficulty to find all these images and try to be in that space and experience it, even if I've never laid foot in Texas. But I think it's probably one of the ways teachers can use to bring their students in and to show these different things. One of the challenges that teachers will face is that, take this for example, I tried to find SpaceX facilities at Cape Canaveral in Florida, but that's where NASA has its assets. And, there's a lot of speculation on Twitter, especially, where people were trying to find out where Elon Musk's house is, because he claims that he has only one house. So we have a few clues here. So if you look in this in the left poster, I just copied and pasted that tweet here where Elon says that my primary home is literally a 50,000 house in Boca Chica. So a lot of people were trying to find out where that house is. Okay, so I tried to gather a few clues on the web, and of course we were trying to find out, if there is any house worth 50,000, and most of the houses that were in that place look really run down and kind of broken. So I was, I came across Boxable, and there were also photographs and a video from Boxable where it was mentioned that they sold one of these boxes to a celebrity CEO. So that was another clue. And I think the clue that sealed it for many of us is that this, for some reason, was $49,500. So it's likely to be that. And why it's interesting to us as developers is that we used exactly the same approach to develop in our buildings in RezMela, where you have, as shown in the last clip, the last section, where you have these blocks that you can assemble to build buildings and and things that you can use in the virtual world. So I took the liberty to include here a small app that would demonstrate this. Like, this is the square room. So let me just sign into this app. And the architect that designed one of these square rooms is here among us, and he's Ludo. He's standing right behind us in this space. I'm loading the simple box house. Well, I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but you can see that all these. Let me delete this part, right? So I'm deleting those, like the top roof, and you can see that this base here is like it's not exactly a cube, of course, but you can see that. Let me show you in the menu. It's much easier to show you different examples of blocks that you can assemble to create buildings. Okay, so if I click on create, and I have a menu of objects, okay, and you can see that, look at the stairs. Okay, it's got a hole and everything. It's a very similar design as the Boxable guys and how they did it. So if you look at the living room section, I'm just zooming in for the people watching the video. You can see the stairs going up, and then there is this opening, and you can imagine having other blocks with an entry point if you decide to stack them up. So I haven't seen any Boxable skyscrapers yet, but I'm sure that this may happen in the future. The other thing that I found interesting is if we can use the panorama itself as a kind of surround view for especially people in virtual worlds, like in OpenSim, for example. Let's go inside this building and look through the window and see how things look like when we look outside the window. Just try to go upstairs and see. I found it interesting. The first time I did it, it was kind of weird to me. So I'm walking upstairs, and I'm looking through the window. And of course, let me remove this blue circle. And we have to increase the resolution of these pictures. It's not Well, once I I am able to maybe sign up with higher resolution images from Google, then we will have a much better view. But I thought that we are standing here in the balcony and we are looking at the launching pad in the distance. Right now, I cannot imagine how things would look like in the future. I don't think I'll have a chance to go to this place and watch things. But I can imagine certainly in our environment, once we get the high resolution Google Street Map images, I can imagine us being in a virtual world and looking at the surrounding and seeing all these things. Okay, if you zoom close by, now that you know how the cube looks like, the cube home, if you zoom closely, can you identify the possible location for where the CEO of SpaceX lives?
Yeah, I think I see it.
I think I see it.
All right, I'm going to tell you where I think it is, and you tell me if you think that's where it is. All right, so let me just load a little arrow here. I'm going to place it right here. And let me resize it. This is too big. But let me just make it a little bit bigger. Rotate. That's just to illustrate, that you can annotate those pictures and diagrams. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was this one.
Yeah. So that's where it is. Yeah. So basically, that's the box that Elon Musk is supposed to live in. But your feedback is important in terms of. I'm trying to find out. Do you feel that you have more information about the place and at how it evolved historically?
Definitely, yes. Yeah, yes, because I did not know the place at all,
Mm-hmm.
and from explanation now, I understand where it comes from. When you showed the houses with no windows or things like that. Yes, so we can just load from Google now, or
Yeah.
can we load our own 360 panorama?
We can do that. I have my own too that I loaded and tried, and it works fine.
I think that's a good way to immerse students into something, and it does not really matter which topic. I think you can use it for language teaching, for history, for different subjects, for economics and for social sciences, natural sciences too. So I think it's a good way without using the without using Oculus, any Rift or Quest or any.
And I am all for all kinds of devices that we can experiment with. So this is one approach, and I agree completely with what you're saying. Andrew, maybe you want to say something?
Yeah, I say it was interesting to see how this area has changed. And, yeah, I also didn't know anything about exactly where SpaceX was actually doing their tasks and doing their launches. So it's been interesting from that point of view.